bonjour, and tanse everyone, and welcome back to another virtual Sunday school. My name is Pearl, and I'm so excited to have you here today. Today, we are going to hear a bit of a story, and I really want you to put your imagination caps on for this one because it's really, really interesting, and it's about the sky. And I want you to put your imagination caps on because as I'm speaking, I'd like you to imagine what I'm saying. I'd like you to see the things that we're talking about, okay? Are you ready? You got that imagination cap on? Good. Let's begin. Slowly, the sun began to rise. The light from the sun filled the whole sky and turned the sky blue. The sky glowed and shone with the light of the sun. Tiny white clouds began to gather in the sky, one by one, two by two, until there were whole groups of clouds running and spinning across the sky. They played tag and danced in and out of the light from the sun. The sky rippled and flowed with all the clouds. The sky seemed to shout, look up, what can you see?" Then, slowly, the clouds slipped away. The sun began to set. The day was over. The sky grew dark and darker and darker still. Soon there was no light from the sun. But soon, a glow began to spread across the dark sky. Slowly, the moon began to rise. The light from the moon filled the whole sky. The sky glowed and shone with the light of the moon. Tiny, twinkling stars began to gather in the sky, one by one, two by two, until there were whole groups of stars winking and twinkling across the sky. The sky glittered with all these stars, and the sky seemed to shout, look up, what can you see?" Then, slowly, the stars slipped away. The moon began to set, and the night was over, and the sky got ready to start another day. I liked that story a lot. You can take your imagination caps off now. What did you think of that story? Could you see all of the things happening, the sun and the clouds and then the moon and the stars twinkling and winking across the sky? I know I could. What do you like best, day or night? That's a tough question to answer. You know, day and night, those two things, they give me a pretty good idea for a craft. Should we go to the craft corner? Yeah, I think we should. Come on, everyone, let's go to the craft corner. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the craft corner. So today we are going to make a little mobile that you can hang up in your room. And what a mobile is it's something that hangs from the ceiling, and it often has little bits and shapes hanging from it. And it can kind of flutter with the air in the room, and it's really just a piece of decoration. So that's what we're going to make today. And we are going to start with a paper plate. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut this paper plate in half. So we'll cut it in half, and once you have that, you can take one half and just set it off to the side. And we might use that half in a later craft, but today we are just focusing on one. And what we want to do is we want to decorate one side to look like the sun and the daylight sky, and the other side to look like the moon and the nighttime sky. And then we'll have little clouds and stars hanging off it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take a marker. I have a pretty small marker, but you can use a bigger one, or crayons, or even paint if you'd like. And you're going to want to just kind of color in a couple areas to make it look like the daytime sky. So I'm using blue, and I'm not going to shade a whole bunch, just a little bit around the edges to make it look like daytime. So I'm just kind of coloring very lightly around the edges just so that it looks pretty bright because we don't want it to look too dark. And it'll look a little scribbly now, but that's okay. So the next thing you're going to want to do is take your shapes. Now, I just made these out of construction paper, and I cut them ahead of time just so you all wouldn't have to watch me sit here and cut out a bunch of triangles for a long time. But we are going to glue them on in the shape of a sun. And you don't need to use the triangles. You can make your sun look like whatever you want it to, but we're going to glue that sun right in the center. All right, and now we have a sun. So we have our sunny side of our mobile finished. And again, it looks a little scribbly, so if you'd like to use paint or crayons to color it in better, or if you'd just like to do better than I did, please do. But, you know, it's art, so it can look like whatever you want. Now we are going to flip to the opposite side. And just like last time, we're going to start by coloring some. I don't want to use the color black because I'm going to be writing in black later on, so I'm going to use a dark purple to color in the nighttime sky. So once our nighttime sky is colored in, and again, it's not perfect, but that's okay. We are going to put a moon on our nighttime sky. And that moon, again, can go right in the center, and we're going to glue it down. And I'm going to take a black marker and just outline the moon just so we can see it perfectly. Perfect! So on one side we have the daytime sky, and on the other side we have the nighttime sky. The next thing we want to do is we want to write on it. So we're going to write the words, "The sky shows God's glory." And then when we flip it over, we can write, "And it is wonderful." And you can change that up a bit if you'd like. You can write whatever you want, but that is what I'm going to write. So now that we have our writing done, we can do a little bit of decorating. The night sky looks a little bit plain, so I'm going to take some glitter and some glue, and I'm going to add some little patches of stars, just like in our story. Awesome, and we have some lovely little sparkles, and now flipping it over to the other side, I am going to take some cotton balls and just make a few little clouds along the edge. And one thing about cotton balls is sometimes you can pull them apart just a bit. So we want to go along the cotton ball and pull it apart just a bit, not all the way, so that you can make little wispy clouds that can go along the edge of your mobile. Once you have those little wispy clouds, you can glue them to the edge. So I actually only needed one cotton ball. That's good. And now that we have our daytime side decorated and our nighttime side decorated, and we have all the words drawn on, we are going to put some yarn through a few holes in the bottom of our mobile, and we're going to hang some things from that yarn. So we'll take some yarn, and we want probably about that much yarn, a few inches, maybe 4 inches, and we're going to take that and we're going to make a couple different lengths. So you can take your scissors, and we'll make one that's maybe that long, one that's, let's say, a little bit longer, maybe one that's slightly shorter than the other two, and let's say back to the original length or slightly longer even. So now we have 4 different lengths of string, and we are going to take our mobile and take our scissors, and we're going to cut small holes in the bottom, 4 different holes. And this, you might need the help of a parent or an older sibling, just because it's a little bit tough. Ideally, you would want to use a hole punch for this, but I don't have a hole punch. So instead, I am going to cut 4 holes with my scissors. So we have those 4 holes in there now. I just cut them. So now with our yarn, you can tie your yarn to your mobile through those 4 holes. It's going to be a little tricky to get the yarn in there, but once you do, you can tie it and do that 4 times. And now we have 4 strings coming down off of our mobile. It was a little difficult to get those strings in there and tie them off all neatly, but it can all be done. And if there's any places that get a little bit ripped, you can just patch them up with some tape. Okay, now we have a few more shapes to add to the mix. I have a couple of stars here and a couple of clouds. We're going to tie those to the other ends of all of the strings. And they're going to be the little pieces that kind of flutter and sway in the wind. And after all of that tying and fiddling with the yarn, we finally have our mobile. So it has a couple of stars and a couple of clouds. And on one side it says the sky shows God's glory. And on the other side it says, and it is wonderful. And the last final step we're going to do is we're going to put a little loop of yarn right on the top here. And I'm not going to make you punch in holes for this one. Instead, we're just going to take the yarn and we are going to tape it down. So I have some tape here, and we are just going to take a strip of tape and tape it down. And of course, you can tie it on if you'd like. I am just tired of all that tying. So we're going to tape it down nice and securely. And now that it's all taped down, you can take this and you can hang it up on your ceiling or on your wall somewhere. Thank you so much for joining me today. I had so much fun with you all reading the story about the sky and making our little mobile, and I hope you had just as much fun with me. I think I'm going to hang this up right behind me. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember, God loves you very much, and you should love yourself too. Bye-bye, everyone.